Hello everyone, this is JPL, and welcome to Podcast Name in Brackets. Back once again for a monthly edition of the Top 5. Though this month we are doing a Top 10, and we're going to be talking about the Top 10 Villains of Television. Now, you may notice that I'm the only host here. Sadly, I do not have my co-host on this episode. And this is because they do not watch a whole lot of television, and so it would be a struggle for them to come up with a top 5, let alone a top 10. So I am here to carry this whole episode. It should be an interesting experiment. It's just me talking. So I didn't want to wait a whole year or two for them to watch enough stuff to contribute to this episode. So yeah. For this episode, just to have a decent length of me talking about stuff, in regards to top 10 for TV villains, I have two categories. One is I'm going to be doing a top 10 for TV villains in live action, and the other one I'm going to be doing a top 10 for TV villains in animation. So you're going to get around 20 different characters plus a bunch of honorable mentions. I am combining a couple of them because some of them do appear in both animation and live action, so they will just be their own number. So yeah, you're going to notice that a lot of these characters are from similar franchises, and yeah. If I don't list out your favorite villains, sorry about that. You can let us know who your favorite TV villains are, so yeah. Let's get started. At number 10 for my live action category, we have the Reverse Flash, who appeared in the Flash TV show from 2014. He is a villain that began in season 1, and he is such an iconic villain for that show. Too iconic to the fact that they just will not let this character die and just never let him rest. Which, I get it. He was such a fantastic villain from the first season, manipulating things from the shadows. He can match the Flash in speed, and he has a pretty cool design. A lot of his appearances in the first season, he is hiding his face in super speed. And the reveal of the villain was a pretty cool twist. It's an obvious twist if you're following character motivations and who it probably obviously is. Yeah. But it's still really fun. I really like the actor who portrayed him, and so do the showrunners, in fact, because every time he shows up, the actor gives a great performance, and the audience is like, oh, it's the Reverse Flash, let me just sit and listen. And that was great for the first few seasons, but as the show went along, it kind of started to get old, and they couldn't really do anything. And that's kind of their own fault because of how they resolved the character within the first season, to the point where every period afterwards was just so convoluted, and their reasoning for why the character is still there continues to be convoluted, unsatisfactory. Now, I haven't seen the Flash show past season 6, so I don't know how the character turns out there, but I've not heard anything spectacular about his appearance. But he does get red boots. I do know that. So, yes. Moving on to my animated number 10, we have Megatron from Transformers. Now, Megatron has appeared in many different versions, so the three that I am pointing out for this number 10 are, of course, the original Transformers show, the Transformers animated show from 2000s, and Transformers Prime, the CG animated show from the 2010s. Megatron, of course, is an iconic villain. He's the leader of the Decepticons, so a lot of his role is telling his grunts to do different things, and each of his different versions are very different and unique. So the original Megatron could sometimes be not the smartest character, in that he will just not listen to his villains when they give correct advice. So he's a little bit of a hard-headed one, but again, he's always a very cunning villain who throws honor at characters, but then never lives up to honor. But I personally grew up with the Megatron from the 2000 show, animated, who doesn't have a whole lot of appearances in the show, because most of the show he's incapacitated, so there he is often just like in the shadows, manipulating characters, giving advice that leads characters to do things that ultimately serve his master plans. But whenever he does show up and is a threat, he's a big threat. He's a really big threat. And that I loved those moments where he shows up. And they usually show up at like the finales of seasons. And those are really cool. I wish that he was a much more reoccurring villain who shows up in battles each week rather than just stays in the shadows and doesn't do anything until the finales. The third Megatron in this one is Transformers Prime, who has a lot more appearances. Again, like the 2000s one, he mostly stays on his command center telling his lackeys what to do. But we do see him actually talking to them, actually giving orders, rather than not really contributing. And he does show up more often to fight the characters, specifically Prime. And yeah, they're all very unique. They all have their cool designs. I think the Prime one is my current favorite one. He's voiced by Frank Welker, with the second favorite being the 2000s one. Because he has limited appearances in that one, his appearances do really stand out as a big threat. At number 9 for my live-action pick, I have Benjamin Linus from Lost. Now, Benjamin Linus is just one of the first villains, I guess just one of the first TV villains that I experienced in my childhood. And you're going to notice that there's probably going to be a common theme within all my choices on how the villains interact. But yes, Benjamin Linus, within the first few seasons of his appearance, like, he is most definitely a villain. He's the leader of the Others group, and he ultimately is just a masterful tool for the writers to figure out what they're going to do. Because what Ben does a lot is, one, that he lies a whole lot, and two, he divulges information whenever that information needs to come out most. So there'll be a lot of times where he will lie to characters, and then episodes later he will tell them the truth, and the truth is the opposite of what he says. And that's pretty much what the writers are just trying to figure out what they're going to do, and so they switch things. And Ben really works like that. He's masterfully performed by Michael Emerson, who just gives this very creepy performance. Ultimately, Ben has a tragic backstory. He's just a child who wants power, essentially, because he was overlooked and abused as a kid, so he wants the power to just have control over others. And that's ultimately what he wants, control. He wants to control others. He wants to be the one that they look to. He wants to be the one in charge, the one that's needed. And he will force others to be put into the position where they need him. And yeah, he's a great manipulator, definite bad guy for sure. And he's not afraid to kill. He's definitely not a coward. Like, he will do the dirty business if he needs to. But also, he gets beat up a lot. He gets captured and tied up a lot. And he almost has gotten killed so many times. But he has such a great way of withholding information that he manages to just be underestimated by every character. So he talks his way out of so many situations. I don't really know what else to say about the character. Besides, he's a great tool for the writer, and his role throughout the show kind of evolves and changes, where because Michael Emerson gives a great performances. You don't want the character to ultimately die because you just enjoy the performance, and so they find ways to keep him around, and that's been an interesting that is an interesting journey to see happen when you watch the show. For my animated number 9, I have Mojo Jojo from the Powerpuff Girls. He's just an iconic Cartoon Network villain who shows up every week, has like a different gadget or diabolical plan. It's usually a giant robot to fight the Powerpuff Girls, and he's a punching bag, so he constantly gets beat up. He's very angry, has the maniacal laughter. Like, he's iconic. He's very entertaining. Um, the movie gives him a very interesting backstory. But in the show, he's entertaining. Like, even when he's not the villain, like, he still gets beat up, and he's still, he's great. He's a great classic cartoon villain. For my number 8, I'm combining live action and animation. And for the character of this one, we have Grand Admiral Thrawn, who appears in both Star Wars Rebels, the animated series, and Star Wars Ahsoka, the live action series. Now, Thrawn is such a legendary character for the Star Wars community. He appeared in many of the best Star Wars books back in the old expanded universe, now just called Legends, and he is a Sherlock Holmes type character, and an evil Sherlock Holmes, where he's cold and calculated, very emotionless, and just very smart. He throws out these crazy tactics that normal people don't understand, but ultimately he has like a big grand purpose for everything, and it all comes together in great fruition. Now, there are 3 different versions of Grand Admiral Thrawn. You have the version where he appears in the Legends continuity, where he is such a big brain mastermind, where his schemes and deductions are so out there and brilliant, and they have such a great effect over the universe that, yeah, there's a reason why he's such a dangerous character and threat, and why he's so beloved. Then you have the Thrawn in the canon books, where he's a very smart and intelligent character. He's great there too, but you really feel that the character is really limited and restricted with what he can do, which has been an issue with many canon Star Wars books, where they cannot really affect the universe at large because you cannot limit the opportunity for the TV shows and the films. So, Thrawn, he's there, but he's limited to like how he can affect the world. So his stories are kind of short form. They don't really change the lore too crazily, except when it comes to the Chiss. Then that's fine. And then you have the Thrawn that appears in media, which is pretty much what we're talking about today. And this is the Thrawn that's really watered down. And it's really watered down because they have to depict this character for general audiences. It made sense for Star Wars Rebels because that's a TVY7 show, and they have to make Thrawn appear smart to the kids, but not be too smart that the kids won't understand how Thrawn got to his deduction. So he doesn't really appear as smart if you're a Thrawn book reader. So for Thrawn in that, he'll look at like 2 lines that cross on the map and says, "Aha, yes, I have discovered the secret because these 2 lines converge at this spot." It's not the same as a Thrawn who gathers little bits and pieces here and there and then creates this trap so that he can do this and that and for this all grand purpose. So it's understandable if people who love the book Thrawns are just so disappointed by his appearance in media. But for someone like me who doesn't read a whole lot of books, and my actual introduction to Thrawn is through this media. He's really smart. Ultimately, it comes down to the performance from Lars Mikkelsen, who gives that cold, calculated, emotionless voice, who studies his victims, who studies his enemies, studies their war tactics, but also studies them personally, studies their histories. And the thing that I like the most about Thrawn in general is how he has a big fascination for art. And he studies the different cultures and the artwork and has such a revereness for the artwork to the point where if anyone in the Empire disses the concept of artwork and calls it trash, sometimes he'll rarely lose his temper to that. But yes, I'm excited to see where this character goes in the future. He appeared in live action for the first time in the Ahsoka show, and that's pretty cool. And he is out there in the galaxy, and we'll see what he does. I also just really like that he's blue and has the red eyes and just the white uniform. It's such a striking design that is iconic and very cool to see. At number 7 for my live-action selection, I have Lalo Salamanca from Better Call Saul. He is a villain that shows up in the later seasons of the show, and his appearances there just leave such a mark where he's great in that he has two different sides. He has a manic energy where he's a little unhinged, you have no idea what he's gonna do, and he's kind of terrifying when he shows up and smells at you and tries to, act very friendly, just to kill you. But then there's the other side, where he's, very serious looking. He's pretty smart. He's able to deduce things very well, has master plans, he gets his hands dirty, and that mixture of serious calculatedness plus his tiny bit of manic, unhinged energy is a perfect blend for a great villain that leaves an impact to the point where he's a character who makes one of the main villains of Breaking Bad scared, a character who never really feels emotions or gets scared, and so to see him be scared of Lalo, that really shows how Lalo is a pretty great and iconic villain. And part of that, of course, has to do with the performance of Tony Dalton. For my animated number 7, I have the Shredder from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. The Shredder, like Megatron, is the main bad guy of our hero group. So he'll appear in almost every version of the Ninja Turtles, and he's almost expected to appear in every version. There are 3 versions that I've chosen to talk about today. The version from the 80s cartoon, the version from the 2003 cartoon, and the version from the 2012 CG cartoon. Now, personally, I grew up with a 2003 Shredder who just looks so gosh darn cool. And he's also very menacing. He's a great threat. His first battle against the Turtles, he owns them. I greatly remember the struggle it is to defeat him, but he also has, secrets about him. He's not your typical Shredder where he's just just a guy who's in charge of a ninja clan who has a beef and vendetta against Splinter. No, there's an other mysterious side to him that I'm not going to spoil if you haven't seen that show, but he is one of the big menaces of that show. The other Shredders, the 80s Shredder is kind of a punching bag, a villain of the week, where he shows up, has minions that the Turtles fight, and gets beaten a lot in comical ways, and, he screams and such. Very fun, but not to be taken too seriously. And then you have the 2012 Shredder, who stabs you in the back a whole lot, does deplorable things to his own family. He's more like a traditional Shredder that you'd see from the 90s film, where he has the backstory and the rivalry with Master Splinter. Whenever he shows up, it's usually pretty cool whenever the action scenes happen. So, yeah, 2003, to me, is the golden standard for Shredder. He's got the menace, he's got the look, and the aura, generally. So, yeah. At number 6, we are combining live action and animated again. And here we're going to be talking about Deathstroke, or Slade Wilson. So, yeah, Deathstroke is an iconic DC villain who's shown up a whole lot within the 2010s and 2020s. Like, before then, he's had, like, limited appearances in any media. But since then, he is in almost everything. And I like that. He's a really cool villain. He's got a very iconic design with the orange and the eye patch. What I like about him is that he doesn't particularly have superpowers outside of, like, healing and maybe a little bit of super strength, but he's mainly a tacticianer. He does mainly hand-to-hand combat. He has a sword, he uses guns, and those are really fun stuff. So 3 versions that I have that I talk about for today is the version Slade from Teen Titans, then the version from the Arrowverse series, or mainly Arrow, and the last one, a wild card I've chosen, is his appearance in Beware the Batman, a very kind of obscure Batman show. Like the other villains in this list, he is a great manipulator when he needs to. So, the Slade from the Teen Titans show, he greatly manipulates our heroes, gets in their heads, greatly torments those children. Like, he tries to turn them against each other. He specifically targets Robin in that show, so he is one of their best villains, and he's greatly performed by Ron Perlman, so he's got that slick voice. And then his appearance in Arrow, which is one of his first live-action appearance, if you discount Smallville. But yeah, here, first time we see him in that gear with the mask and such in that show, and he's really cool. He's Arrow's best villain. He has the personal history with that character, and whenever he shows up, expect something cool to happen. And yeah, I don't want to get too much into it, because sometimes Deathstroke can appear as an anti-hero, but as a villain, I think he works best as a villain. He's also a mercenary, so sometimes his allegiance will just change depending on who he hires them. And lastly, we have Beware the Batman, who gives him a very different backstory, where he was trained by Alfred. A weird choice, but yeah, he is one of that show's best villains. He shows up in the second half of that season, and it's a slow reveal about who he is. But if you're smart, you can figure it out. And yeah, he leaves his mark, pushes Batman to the brink, and good hand-to-hand combat, pretty cool. Really, really all the villains that I like, half of them have a cool factor. Just a signature look that's just awesome to look at. But I'm not done with number 6, because I actually have a tie for this number. And the tie that I have with this one is Darth Vader, who appears in multiple stuff, specifically from Star Wars Rebels and the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. Now, putting Darth Vader here is kind of cheating, because he is a film villain. That's where all of his best moments are from. Almost all of them. But whenever he showed up in Rebels and Obi-Wan, it's Darth Vader. He is so cool looking. He's voiced by James Earl Jones, so that's amazing. And those are usually the best parts of those episodes whenever he shows up, because, I mean, you're putting the history of the films and of Anakin into everything, and his confrontation with characters from Rebels is emotional. Even the confrontation in the moment from Obi-Wan Kenobi, which essentially copies the Rebels one, it's still emotional and great, and it's just really fun to see Darth Vader show up, be an absolute menace, and be in cool fights. We love seeing him fight. And yeah, like I'm always down for more Darth Vader. But sadly with James Earl Jones passing, it would not be the same. For my live action number 5, I have Kilgrave from Jessica Jones. Or his comic book name, the Purple Man, who his ability is that he has like pheromones that whoever is in proximity to him and like breathes in the pheromones, he's under their control, so he can command them to do anything. And Jessica Jones takes this concept to such a dark extreme where he isn't really a villain who like is looking for power. He just wants to do whatever he wants. It's like, oh, I want to eat at this restaurant. I'm gonna eat at this restaurant. Ooh, that girl's pretty. I want to do stuff with her. She can't say no to me because I will command her. And that's such a scary villain. And the way they depict him in the show, like, it's terrifying. It's terrifying to see him in scenes with other characters, and you fear for them because you have no idea what he's going to do or if those characters are going to go out alive, because the man doesn't care. He's a sociopath. He doesn't care for like ethics and boundaries. Whoever dies, it doesn't matter to him. He gets what he wants, and everyone else, they can die for all he cares, and a lot of people die. And he's masterfully played by David Tennant, who David Tennant is one of my favorite actors, and so him here, man, gives a very scary performance, and it's one of the MCU's quote unquote MCU's best villains that, it only has one season of that show. I wish that they could have used him more, but yeah, he left his mark in that show, and yeah, he is one of my favorite villains. For my animated number 5, we have Bill Cipher from Gravity Falls. Now, Bill Cipher is a cosmic trickster character, kind of like Q from Star Trek, where they are essentially all powerful. Like, with like the snap of their fingers or a blink of an eye, they could create and do anything. But what the cosmic trickster likes to do is play tricks on people. But Bill, his cosmic tricksterness is that he will eat the earth, he will party in the universe, he will do whatever he wants. But he is tied down by a strict set of rules, and the show, he's just manipulating in the shadows, trying to find a way to free himself so that he can just have like a cosmic party and ruin everything. So he is the best villain of that show. It's always, he's fun. He's fun. He does fun stuff, even though he's also very scary with the amount of power that he has. But because of the strict set of rules that he has, he constantly has to try and manipulate characters in order to get what he wants. So, yeah. For my live action number 4, we have Kingpin from Daredevil. He started out with the Netflix Daredevil show, and he has since been brought into the MCU through Hawkeye, Echo, and the recent Daredevil Born Again. And he's masterfully performed by Vincent D'Onofrio. Like, in terms of like live action, this is the best casting possible for Kingpin. Kingpin, he's the head of crime, the organization, but the way he's depicted in Daredevil, he's like this big, I dare say man-child who, whenever he has a tantrum, people die, and he's very strong. He plans things very well, and like he has a soft emotional side that he will sometimes try to connect with people, but if they at all interfere with him or cross him in such a personal way, like, yeah, he gets angry and does stuff. Yeah, he's Daredevil's best villain, especially from that Netflix show. his appearances in the MCU, they're kind of subdued so far. But yeah, no, he's scary. He's scary when he's in a scene with any of your favorite characters, because like you don't know if he's gonna snap and become angry, but he's always a pleasure to see as you're trying to figure out, okay, what's his plan? How's he gonna handle everything? It even has a tragic backstory where you can kind of understand his thought process and how he reacts. So, yeah, no, one of the best MCU villains out there. For my animated number 4, we have Aku from Samurai Jack. Yeah, he's the big bad villain that the entire show we're trying to defeat him, and yeah, he is such a very cool and iconic design, just like the black silhouette with the green face and red like facial hair. It's such a very distinct and iconic look. He in the first few seasons was voiced by Mako, who has like a very great voice. And he's very entertaining. Like even though he's the big bad, the conqueror of the world, he's really funny whenever he shows up. He's like some fun comedic moments. His confrontations with Jack are just, they're really cool whenever they get into the action, but he also like plays jokes on Jack and laughs at him. He has cool abilities, vague abilities. He can specifically transform into like weird looking creatures. That's pretty cool. I think he also has fire abilities of some sort. Yeah, I mean, he's another iconic Cartoon Network villain. Has one of the best villain designs out there. And if you haven't seen Samurai Jack, highly recommend it. For my live action number 3, we have Gus Fring from Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. Like some of my other villains, he is a cold, calculated manipulator where he's very intelligent, he keeps to himself, showcases little emotion, but sometimes he can pretend to be the happy one. Yeah, he, like Thrawn, is very calculated. He keeps to himself, he deduces a lot of things, he is very meticulous and careful to not reveal himself, to not play his hand. He does a lot of things behind the scenes, sets up his crime organization, only to be in a position put by him by Walter White in Breaking Bad. But yes, his appearances in Better Call Saul, he's less of a villain in there, but he's still a really bad guy who does terrible things. His backstory is kind of anonymous and elusive. You can sort of infer something from like little hints in there, but it's never definitive. But if you understand at all the hints of those backstories, he's a very evil man who does very evil stuff, and he is not afraid to kill and command people to die. Like, he will threaten infant children. Like, there's no boundaries for him. He just wants to lead his organization, take revenge for those who do bad stuff against him, and just be in charge. And whenever you get in the way of that, yeah, he's not someone you want to cross. And if you do cross him, you better be a very smart person who distracts him enough to defeat him. So, yeah. For my animated number 3, we have Maul, or Darth Maul as he was known from the Star Wars films, or the Phantom Menace specifically. Yeah, his appearance in the Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels are interesting in that, you know, it's an odd choice to bring this character back to life, but everything that they've used him in has been top tier Star Wars storytelling, in that he wants revenge, he wants nothing to do with what his master's doing, he wants to take control over stuff. His motivations are thrown in different directions. and all he has is just anger and torment, and whenever he has to like throw that anger and torment at things, people suffer, characters die, they get injured, and it's so difficult to watch characters go through stuff. And yeah, he's a dark side user, has the force, he's pretty good with combat, with the lightsaber fights. Yeah, I mean, he has also just a very cool design, just very cool and scary, and his appearance in animation is just well animated. They put him in shadows a lot, and they use him really well. He's also just a very interesting character just to watch in those shows, because we know him from the Phantom Menace, from before the the events of the Clone Wars and the Empire. And so see him being thrown into the Clone Wars, being thrown into the period of the Empire. You're kind of curious of like where he goes. How does he handle the chaos? How does he thrive? He clearly develops a crime syndicate and does stuff from the shadows, but deep down there's like a secret purpose that he's trying to find. He's dealing with the pain of loss and the suffering, and ultimately he's just an angry, broken man that, by his final appearance in canon, just leaves you just kind of feel bad for him in a way. Like, he's killed so many people, he's downright evil, but in the end, it's like, yeah, just a broken man by the end. Really sad. For my number 2, we are once again combining live action and animation. And my pick for number 2 is Cad Bane. Now, if you know anything about me, you know I am a huge Cad Bane fan. Like, ever since his first appearance in Star Wars The Clone Wars, like, I've been in love with this guy. I mean, he has such a really cool design. He's a space cowboy. He's got the big hat. He's got the cool dual-wielding guns. Like, his outfit is just very much inspired by a Western. He's a Duros, which means he's blue. He's got the red eyes. He's really scary. He's appeared in multiple shows, from The Clone Wars to The Bad Batch, and has featured in live action in the Book of Boba Fett. Like, every time he's on screen, I am glued to that screen. Like, if you put Cad Bane in any project, it automatically, for me, becomes a highlight, because I like this character so much. He has such a great screen presence. He has such an aura. Like, just by his silhouette, that's just a phenomenal character design. His personality, he's a bounty hunter. He's a cold-blooded killer, but he's also a gentleman of some sorts. He's not afraid to kidnap children, but, you know, he'll do it in a polite way. You know, he greets people, he says goodbye, you know, he yeah, it's Cad Bane. If you haven't seen any of his appearances, go watch them. He's so cool. He's so gosh darn cool. I mean, is he fully evil? Sure. He's killed a bunch of people in cold blood. But I just cannot help but love the man every time he shows up. So, yes. But before I talk about my number 1, why don't we talk about some of my honorable mentions? First up, we have General Grievous from his appearance of the 2003 Clone Wars animated show by Genndy Tartakovsky. This General Grievous is just an absolute menace and completely overpowered. Now, to be fair, almost every Jedi character in that show is overpowered, but Grievous, man, like, there's a reason why he had to be nerfed in the 2008 CG Clone Wars, because this character cannot exist. Like, him and his appearance in the film are two different General Grievouses. He will, like, single-handedly take on multiple Jedi and beat them all. And he's so cool. He presents the ominous aura. I mean, yeah, no, he's a big threat. Then we have Darkseid, from the DCAU, who yeah, he's a big bad, very powerful, but he's a very powerful character who doesn't do a whole lot of his own action. He sends in the lackeys, but whenever he does fight, he packs a punch. He mostly appears against Superman in the Superman the animated series, but he also appears in the Justice League and, gives them a struggle. Like, he has just a very cool design. He's got the Omega beams, the fiery eyes. He has the deep voice. Yeah, no, he's pretty cool. Then we have Green Goblin as he appears in the Spectacular Spider-Man. One of the best versions of the Green Goblin depicted in animation, or really in general, seconded by Willem Dafoe. This is a trickster character who also is a great manipulator, does things, has a master plan, does things to lead to his own purposes. And the show plays with your expectations of the character with twists about who the character is and what he does, and it's pretty cool when it does that. Next, we have Discord from My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. He's another trickster character, a cosmic trickster character, pretty much Q from Star Trek that has pretty much all-powerful ability, just wants to have fun. Yeah, I mean, pretty much all the villains from that show are pretty cool and fun, but Discord was my favorite. Next, we have Dave from the 2004 The Batman cartoon, who only appeared in one episode of that show, and that's his only appearance in any DC project ever, and he left such a mark on me as a kid. He's a robot in a trench coat. Such an awesome design. He's designed to be intelligent. He discovers Batman's identity. Spoilers, I forgot to mention this earlier. Spoilers. Yeah, no, pretty cool character that I wish would appear in more things. But alas, he stays here. Next, I have an entry for Doctor Who, and that is The Master. Now, Doctor Who has a lot of fantastic villains. However, the villains are technically a group of monsters, like the Daleks or the Weeping Angels and Cybermen. They're like a species rather than a single entity, and the Master is the closest thing to like a single entity villain, and yeah, he's the foil to the Doctor himself. The same species, the same technology, but this guy's evil. So, yeah. Then we have Baylan Skoll from the Ahsoka TV show, who's masterly performed by Ray Stevenson, the late Ray Stevenson, who, he's interesting because we don't fully know his motivations. He's clearly looking for a power of some sorts, and we'll probably find this out in the future seasons of that show. But in his short appearance in just the one season, he is just a very interesting character. He's a former Jedi who has turned to the dark side of some sort. And he keeps a lot of stuff to himself. He has regrets about the past of like, oh, I wish the Jedi were like this. And I don't know. He's just so interesting to watch that I'm looking forward to see what they do with that character. But yeah, because of the performance, that's why he's on this list. And lastly, here we have the Penguin. The Penguin from pretty much any Batman show is fun and entertaining, but I've chosen the Burgess Meredith Penguin from the 60s Batman show, who, yeah, he's the iconic one who does the wah wah wah, has the different escapades that's pretty fun and cool. Now, when I was making this list, I did notice that there was a severe lack of female characters, and there are a lot of female villains out there that are pretty cool, and to honor them, I have another section of honorable mentions just for them. First up, we have Shego from Kim Possible. She is kind of a henchwoman for Drackle. I forget the name, but she is the foil to Kim Possible in that she is a match for her skill-wise. So they're constantly battling each other. They give it banter. She's fun. Shigo is a villain who, if she took her job seriously, she could take over the world. But she honestly just doesn't really care. Like, her time as a henchwoman is just, like, to pass the time, essentially. It's a job. Then we have Harley Quinn, who has appeared in many different shows at this point, but for me, Harley Quinn from the Batman animated series is the best version. I mean, she's the original version, essentially. And what I find fascinating about this character is that she isn't crazy and psychotic like the later versions of the character is. She's just someone who is trying to live up to the Joker, trying to please him, and falling short. Her skin is not bleached, she puts on makeup, and whatever she does, she cannot please him. And that is part of the tragedy of the character, in that she's in this toxic relationship, and she cannot escape. And it's not until, spoilers for the DCAU, it's not until the Joker dies where she's able to, like, be free and have a normal life. It's sad. It's tragic. But she's such an iconic villain from that show. Next up, we have Azula from The Last Airbender, Avatar The Last Airbender. I mean, Azula is an obvious choice. Like, if you make a list of top villains, specifically female villains, she has to be on that list. I mean, yeah, she's the brother to Zuko, who is evil. Evil woman. Like, she's very good. She's a really good fighter. She has blue flames. She's a good tracker. She's a good foil to our main set of heroes. And she's very good at her job at being the villain. But she's also a little crazy, unhinged, doesn't really understand social norms, and so she's a little bit of an outcast at that point, which does lead to her appearances by the end. Then we have another My Little Pony villain, and for the female villains, I have decided to choose Starlight Glimmer, who later becomes a reformed villain. But yeah, her appearances as a villain were great. She was very effective. Essentially created a whole cult, was a dictator, created communism for ponies. She is one of the only villains who managed to be in the premiere and finale of a season, and she does some crazy stuff, and she's very powerful. I like her as a villain. I like her more as a reformed character, but yeah, she was a very effective villain. Next up, we have Cheshire, as she appeared in the Young Justice cartoon. Yeah, Cheshire. Cheshire is kind of like Catwoman, in that she's a very unreliable villain, in that for a lot of her appearance, she's a villain. She's the bad guy. I mean, she does crime, she fights the good guys, but sometimes she will flip the script and help the good guys, but you cannot rely on her to do either one of those things. So, she's very interesting. I like her relationship with Roy Harper in that show, and I like the complicated relationship about family with the character. But yeah, she has a cool design, and is played by Kelly Hu, who's a pretty fun actress. Next up, we have Asajj Ventress from the Clone Wars TV show, who, you could technically call her a reformed villain. She's someone who, was trained to be an evil person. She does evil deeds, but then was cast aside because of arbitrary rules, and so she has a journey of self-discovery. She's pretty cool. She's mostly there to have lightsaber fights, but she's an angry person who wants power, but doesn't really understand fully what she wants until she gets cast aside and has to find out for herself. And I'm curious to see what they do with her in the future. Now that she's not fully tied down to just being the villain, so we'll see. Next up, we have Shin Hati from the Ahsoka TV show. She's the apprentice of Baylan Skoll, and just like Baylan Skoll, like, she has great screen presence. I'm very curious, like, what the point of her is. She wants to be a part of something. She's following Baylan for a purpose. We'll see what happens with this character. Right now, she's mainly there to, like, have lightsaber fights like Ventress. So now that she's where she's at in Ahsoka, I don't know. We'll find out. And lastly, we have Neapolitan from RWBY. Yeah, she's a fan favorite RWBY character. And yeah, she is a mute character, so she doesn't speak at all. But yeah, she, from her first appearance, left a mark. She's very cool. Her fighting style is a very defensive one, where she does a lot of counter strikes rather than being the first to strike. She uses her umbrella a lot to, like, block and defend things. And she's very annoying for our heroes to deal with because of that. So she's a struggle. But she's fun. And she has, motivations of revenge and such. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. But I'm not done with honorable mentions, because I have another bonus section for anime villains. Of our three hosts, I'm really the main one who watches anime. And they're really not gonna have a list for this, but if we ever do get to a point where we are going to do an anime villains list, this is a sneak peek of that. But if we're going to do that, that's going to be 5 years from now, so it's going to be a long while. But yeah, here's my list of anime villains. So I'm going to point out that, spoilers for some characters. If you didn't know they were a villain, anime has a lot of twist villains. And also, if there are villains here that you're like, oh, why don't you have this or that? It's because I'm limited to only 8 characters, and I haven't seen a lot of the big shows like One Piece or Dragon Ball, so if you're expecting villains from one of those shows, then sorry. But first up, we have Light Yagami from Death Note. He is technically the protagonist. No, he is the protagonist of Death Note. But he's also a villain. You can argue, I don't know who's arguing this, but yeah, Light Yagami, if he wasn't a villain from the first episode, he is from the last one. So he kills people with his Death Note. He kills mostly criminals, but he will kill anyone who crosses him. So, yeah. Then we have Toby from Naruto Shippuden. I cannot explain Toby without spoilers. So what I'll say is Toby is a character you don't expect to be anything, and there are multiple twists with Toby. He has a really fun voice, has a really cool voice as well. He's interesting. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. Then we have All For One from My Hero Academia. He is the big bad of the show. He manipulates from the shadows. There's a lot of manipulators from my list here, but yeah, he is the big bad who has multiple options for evil. Very evil guy, doesn't understand stuff. Without spoiling later parts of the show, he's bad. He's bad news. I'll leave it there. Then we have Wrath from Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. He's one of the big homunculi. He's cool. He's got a cool voice. He fights with swords. I don't know what else to say. He's wrathful. He's angry. Then we have Tanya from Saga of Tanya the Evil. She's also a protagonist of her own show. You could debate whether or not she's a villain. I mean, she's evil. She's downright evil. I mean, we don't have antagonists that she's going up against, but she does evil acts. She relishes war. Yeah. What else can you say? Next up, we have QB from Madoka Magica. QB, as a villain, you could best describe QB as a neutral villain, in that they don't specifically do stuff to be villainous. They are a logical character who is also very transactional, where they will give you your wish, your best wish. In exchange, you become a magical girl. But then there's some secret rules that they don't explain, and those rules are kind of messed up. And QB, because they're logical, that they don't really factor in the ethics of things, and yeah, I'll leave it there. Next up, we have another My Hero Academia villain. I mean, because the show is about superheroes, of course you're gonna have many villains. Like, you could have a whole honorable mentions tab of just those villains, but I'm just choosing the more interesting ones for this one. Yeah, Himiko Toga is a villain who is a villain of her circumstances, in that her abilities in themselves are very villainous. She needs to suck blood to able to use abilities which are shape-shifting abilities, and that's very frightening. And because her abilities are about being vampiric and sucking blood, it's hard for her to conform to society because of that, because she doesn't understand a whole lot of like how to do things, and so because of that she ends up becoming a villain because she doesn't really know anything else. And it's very interesting when you explore the abilities of that series. Yeah, I mean, yeah. And lastly, with another My Hero villain, we have Dobby. And I cannot explain Dobby, who, like Toby, has a lot of spoiler stuff. And Dobby, for most of the show, is kind of like there, who has a fire ability, who has blue flames, and they're really cool. But they don't do a whole lot until they have a twist and a big reveal. And what that reveal does to the characters and to arcs and emotions, it's fantastic and tragic and very interesting. And I cannot explain more than that without getting into spoilers. So, yes, these are my honorable mentions for the anime villains. There's so many anime villains that I could have included here, but unfortunately, these are the 8 I had to go with. But yeah, these are my honorable mentions in general. So, on to my number 1. And for my number 1 villain who appears in television, in both live action and in animation, I have the Joker from DC. Now, just like Cad Bane, if you know anything about me, the Joker is one of my favorite characters and villains. I'm a Joker fanatic. Like, you can have him appear in anything, and I'm glued to the screen because he's so fun to watch, and he's also fascinating depending on what you're watching. So yeah, there are multiple versions of him. I grew up watching the 60s Batman TV show with Cesar Romero, who has the mustache underneath all that makeup. Like, he's a great source of manic energy, the character, in any of his appearances. Also a lot of menace, but most of it's pretty fun. And yeah, there's so many versions of the character, from the DCAU, from BTAS to Justice League, to the Batman from 2004, to his appearance in The Brave and the Bold, or the other shows that he appears in. He has like a masterful voice actor with Mark Hamill, who just has a phenomenal laugh and a great voice for the character. I mean, he's playful, He's fun, he's menacing, and yeah, that's the aspects that I enjoy with the character. Every time he shows up in a project, it's like, you're gonna have something fun and something menacing as well. He appears in my favorite episodes of DC. There's a reason why he's Batman's best villain, and yeah, he appears in too many projects for some people, but I don't care. You put Joker in something, I'm gonna have a good time watching him do his stuff. So yeah, for me, the Joker is the best villain in TV, one of the best villains out there, an iconic villain in DC and Batman, and yeah. So yeah, this were my top 10, technically top 20-ish, 30-ish, if you count all my honorable mentions. Yeah, these are my favorite villains from TV. There's a lot more villains that you could include that I just couldn't include with just everything. Like, I really stretched things out as much as I could by talking about both animation and live action. And then with my multiple honorable mentions, like, villains are usually the best characters in those shows because they're interesting. Um, they're they're usually the best designed. They're usually the most fun to watch, and they leave a mark on you. And yeah, yeah. So yeah, that's all I have for this time. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you all next time. Bye.